Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Self Rebellion. My name is Ndache and thank you so much for joining me. So, I met up with a friend of mine today and it wasn't an easy meeting because, for the first time in a while, I find myself in a very difficult position. Oftentimes I'm the righteous one, I'm the one who gets things right, and I transgressed against her, and having to own up to that was so hard because I just don't know how to navigate uncomfortable situations, mostly because in my own personal life I get to act as the righteous one. I get to forgive someone, and feel good about that, about, I'm so good, I'm so this and that. But now having to be at someone else's mercy, horrible, awful. And it certainly got me off of my high horse, having to sit there and not know what to expect or how to preempt the entire conversation in advance. Because under normal circumstances, I think about every possible scenario, what they would say and how I'd respond so that it sounded profound, I have no idea. I didn't know how to plan for this in advance, and not knowing if my apology would be enough, because it obviously doesn't erase my actions or the harm it caused. That was very difficult, and it really did knock me off of my high horse, And I think I recorded an episode the other time, and I thought about how being in this position is really difficult because it deviates from this identity I'd created about myself and have come to hold so dear, that I am good, simply because my intentions are always good. But my actions and the impact they've had isn't always good. And so grappling with the idea that I was also just as capable of causing harm and hurting someone was very difficult. And someone really dear to me was even harder, right? I think under normal circumstances, when I do things out of pettiness, because I'm not above being petty, I will go petty. When I'm being petty, I know that I am, and I'm doing it deliberately. Whatever the consequences, I don't care, because the intent is always just to be petty, But in this case, it was different, and I didn't intend to cause any harm. But realizing that I was capable of that was just really, really difficult, But it also changed my perspective about showing grace to the people that we love and care about. And it's something that people preach about quite often, you must show your friends grace in as much as you show that nigga. And I never really related to that story or that saying because, I will cut a nigga the first time they transgress in a major way, I don't wait for there to be a second time or a third. Maybe I have become a bit more lenient now and forgiving, but obviously there's certain things that if you cross a boundary, there's no going back, I don't reconsider. So the whole conversation about grace was always a nice thing to say, but I've never had to exercise it from the other side, right? I remember a couple of years having a falling out with a friend of mine. And I think the first time I was like, okay, I'll show grace or whatever, I'm forgiving. The second time I was like, you've crossed a boundary, I can't look past this. And the friendship was never really the same. I had to move on from it, right? And it was very difficult because we had such a special kind of friendship. I think the level of intimacy I shared with her was unlike any I've ever, experienced. I was able to be fully myself, even the parts that I was ashamed about. I didn't feel shame about those parts of myself with her. She got to experience all of me as I am without feeling like, I needed to be anything other than what I was, But I suppose to her, it just didn't seem that significant because it wasn't glamorous to put that up on social media, and comparing to other forms of friendships, it seemed like ours was trivial. But man, I still treasured it just as much, for different reasons, of course. So I put brakes on that, and I've never looked back. But when I found myself, being the transgressor like I was in this particular instance, I thought back to how I was so quick to, to cut her out, and not show grace, even though she had attempted so many times to rectify things. But I was just so over it, And I think, where would I be if this particular friend in question now had just been like, oh my gosh, no, I can't deal with this. You're bad, or like you're awful, or I can't forgive you, or whatever the situation is. I'd feel terrible, particularly because my intention wasn't to hurt her. It wasn't deliberate, or deliberately to cause harm. And I think about the ex-friend of mine now, and I know that she wasn't deliberately wanting to cause harm. Maybe she may have had things in her personal life that caused her to act a particular way, and I should have been more understanding of that, instead of actually just like cutting her off and making conclusions about the type of person she is and removing her from my life, because that just felt like and there's no dustbin for people. And I always think maybe there is room for rehabilitation. This particular friend has shown me that, it's something that I've always said, which sounds very nice to say and hear. But in terms of practicing, obviously, it's a completely different thing. And I think in this particular instance, I never really practiced what I would always say, ba akekho umgqomo wabantu olahlela abantu. But I got to experience that, and like I'm telling you, I'm so humbled. I've got a newfound appreciation for what it means to show people grace, And this isn't about letting people do you dirty and like walk all over you, all in the name of showing people grace, But it's really what it means to show compassion to people, love, kindness, and you're like, I'm just speechless thinking about the fact that I'm in the receiving end of that, because I've never really had to. I'm always the good girl, I do things right, or I try to. But now I find myself, in this new journey that I've been talking about, which is to be a bit more selfish and prioritize myself first. But I think the risk of that is abantu abacha, like people who haven't caused me any harm or abangangihlukumezanga, are also now at the receiving end of that, and I don't think that's fair. I've also had to reflect on how I've been showing up in some of my friendships who haven't really caused me some of those grievances. Like, now that I've decided to prioritize myself, to not be as thoughtful towards others, what does that mean for new friends in my life who haven't experienced me as the selfless or, putting them first type of situation? Like, am I just going to be the person who receives all the time? Like, almost the main character of the friendship. And that's not something I want. Like, I don't want my people to feel like, like I don't think about them. I don't put them first. I don't make an effort for them, because that's not how I want to show up. I want to make an effort, for my people. I want to hold them in high regard. I want to be romantic, and like show up in ways that matter to them. So I don't know again what that means for this newfound identity. I'm taking it up, because Sana, I'm out here like on this new journey of being more selfish, prioritizing myself, and yet I find myself at this crossroad, right, where I risk alienating some of the people I care about, some of my friends who aren't really deserving of me treating them in a particular way. So what do I do? And I feel like, okay, this is such a trivial dilemma, like it's almost a fabricated dilemma. Like, I'm getting myself into this thing, and like andazi how to exist in the middle, which is very funny, because the whole idea of self-rebellion was about balance, finding balance from the extremes, because neither side of the extreme is good. You could be extremely soft or extremely hard, and both of those things have serious consequences. And so how do you find yourself in the middle? And now I think I need to exist somewhere in between, where yes, I'm able to exercise a level of selfishness where I do prioritize my own needs, but at the same time still show up for people, and extend myself in ways that prioritize them and whatnot. But I just don't know what that balance looks like. I don't have a blueprint, but I think what it means is I'm gonna make mistakes. And I think I need to be okay with making mistakes, because it's not something I'm very comfortable about. I think it also comes from being a perfectionist as well. And having really high expectations of myself, who I should be, what I should be doing, how I should be doing it and stuff. But the reality is I'm really walking on uncharted territory. And a part of that means trying out things for the first time. And sometimes they're not going to work, and sometimes they will work. But I need to be okay with whatever the outcome is. And I just have no idea. Like, andazi, guys. All I know is I'm going to be a deadbeat friend. Like, I really don't want to be a deadbeat friend. But I also don't want to neglect myself in service of friendship anymore, And as if I should start creating a list of pros and cons to each of my friendships, like, and that just feels so clinical and like, oh no, andifuni londo, like, what? But I also don't know, like, what the practical way of navigating the season looks like, But yeah, the meeting today with a friend of mine, where they were just so generous and kind in ways that I truly didn't expect, because were the roles reversed, I definitely would have just cut them off. It's making me reconsider, some of the decisions I've made. But at the same time, I know that, like, I've really been hurt, and it's not something I can ignore. I can't continue to let that happen. And as one, like, how do I move forward now? With that whole process, like, I seriously don't know how to do that. But all I know is that communication is important. Like, I realize it's so easy for both parties to make assumptions about where the other one is coming from, or what they're thinking, or the rationale behind some of their actions and whatnot. Oftentimes they can be very wrong. Like, I've been very wrong. And I jump into conclusions, okay? Like, I will make assumptions and, like, stick to them, because that's my experience. But I know that I don't make those assumptions on just one instance. Yes, I'll collect my evidence, but, like, if I already have a perspective, it's very hard to change that perspective, because I don't know what it's called, but, like, something about bias, Is it institutional bias? It's not institutional bias, but, like, confirmation bias. So there's a concept called confirmation bias, where all evidence you gather is meant to serve or confirm the biases that already exist. So I think I suffer from that quite a bit, because even the various instances that I will observe, for instance, and use to make judgments about the assumptions that I've already made, or conclusions about, ideas that I already made, or thoughts or assumptions, it's all based on a bias that I will have had, whatever initial idea is only confirmed or proven by the information that I gather. I don't know if I'm explaining it properly. Also, I've just had, like, really, really nice wine. I decided to open a bottle of La Motte, like I'd gotten 2020 Atelier bottle from La Motte when I was in Cape Town. And I thought I would reserve it for a special occasion. But I suppose today is a special occasion as well, because, not losing people is always a good idea, It's like it's always such a, I don't know, it's worth celebrating because I love people, man. Like, I really think people are top tier, even though people are complicated and they are complex and they've got thoughts and ideas that can be so different from ours and also cause a lot of grief. But, fundamentally, I really think humans are just great. So I suppose today calls for celebrations. But also I hated having this bottle staring at me and like I was curious and like I really wanted to open it and I'm like zoning in this year. I want to do my first marathon. I want to do Hyrox in March in Cape Town and other things, all before March. So I'm like, ugh, yeah, and tempter, like let me just get rid of it because it's been tempting me. So there's that as well. But the primary basis of opening it was because, hey, I think today is worth celebrating. Being shown grace is not something small. I am grateful. I feel loved and cared for and prioritized and important, which I think is different from how I've been feeling. And I think that also has to do with sure. So I think when you put yourself out there and people make different decisions, obviously, sometimes not in your favor, it can leave you feeling like, oh, you're disposable, or like you don't matter, you're not important, or there's something wrong with you or whatever. And I suppose that's just the cost of putting yourself out there. But to know that you do matter is so important. It's not even in service of an ego, but like someone recognizing your humanity and like not holding your faults against you, And I suppose I need to learn from this because, I will hold people's faults against them. Because if you do me dirty, oh honey, you're gone type situation, like, no, don't expect to be in my life. And maybe even that is like a response to previous experiences, which isn't necessarily good. But yeah, so today really felt like someone saw my humanity, and I don't think that's a small thing, like and I'm just grateful. Like I'm really filled with gratitude. Also, I had a lovely time with my dog. Like I was training him and was following the commands, and I love that he's bilingual. Like he listens to commands in isiXhosa. Sometimes he even forgets or ignores me when I teach him stuff in English, which I love because I'm such a proudly Xhosa. So the fact that he's like a Xhosa gent as well, I take so much pride in that. So overall, it's been a good day. And yeah, I think I'm prompted to record this because I've had such a good day, which is different from the Friday I had. So I'm recording this on a Sunday. And on Friday, it was such a difficult day professionally. It was such a difficult day. And I remember sleeping because I was like, it's hard and I don't know who to talk to about this. Until my boss's wife called and like I felt like, okay, I've got someone to talk about this day with, because it was hard, right? But it's also nothing new. Like I'm used to hard days and sana inzuku as fine. So today is a good day on a human level. I feel like I'm also just rambling about everything and nothing all at once. Hold on, let me have a sip of my 2020 Lamot. So smooth. But yeah, like this is where I'm at. Like I think, and this is what I love about friendship, right? I mean, yes, maybe I haven't really had quarrels within my friendship, so I never really had to resolve things. I don't have much practice with conflict resolution in a friendship setting, but what I appreciated about today was how gentle it was and how loving it was still to resolve something that caused someone else harm, but they were still able to do so lovingly, like express themselves without ukuntuka type situation, although, there may have been a pettiness or whatever, which I do understand. Like, I think they showed me more grace than I deserved. And my thing about conflict resolution is always the number one. Oh, it's funny that I talk about this today. Like, Izolo, I was thinking about one of the Bumble matches that I had like a couple of years ago, 2 years ago. And I'd asked him like about his conflict resolution style. He was like, oh no, there isn't any because, he's never made a mistake in a relationship. He said he's never wrong. I was like, what? Anyway, I'm like, I'm getting distracted. I'll tell the story one of these days. But yeah, it's always been my deal breaker, and I think about previous potential relationships that never worked out because of this very thing. So to see a display of that today, when the stakes are so high, it was like really, really beautiful to watch. And I was so grateful to be the recipient of that, And I think it's always been a blueprint of mine. But now I've got a practical example of what that looks like. Like, it was so uncomfortable not knowing, like, and not being able to preempt about, a conversation will go like this, and now I'm gonna say this, and then this whole thing is resolved, type of thing. To be at someone else's mercy, it was so uncomfortable, but showing up anyway, being vulnerable. Like, guys, bekunzima, it was really hard, but I showed up and I was there, and I was like, I want to own up to this. And so it really was, such a beautiful display of someone's kindness and generosity and like maturity, all qualities that I look for. But I don't think many people are skilled in those, myself included, because I am very petty. But yeah, I think it was also on another level a representation of what's possible, the fact that what I do want in a relationship exists. It's not a fallacy, it's not something that is imaginary, but it's real, it exists. And I remember posting something a couple of days ago about how our friends are proof that we're lovable, are evidence that we're lovable. And today was exactly that. It was like a collecting evidence that, hey, resolving conflict amicably is possible and still maintaining a good rapport. Like, I remember after that we were joking, and I was like, oh my goodness, this is so nice. Like, I missed you also. Like, it was like, did I really miss you? But yeah, that's it. I'm gonna try not to act out. Or if I'm aggrieved, like, I need to stay away from recording. Because I do realize that just because I feel a certain way doesn't always mean that, like, the right, like I'm justified or I'm capable of causing harm to someone else. And that's hard to realize, and that's not something I want to do. Like, and I don't want to find myself alone or with people avoiding me because nanzothetha ngabo on my platform. You know what I mean? Like, that's not the reputation I want to have. But anyway, I said a lot today, but I hope you guys are encouraged to have those difficult conversations in your life anyway. Even if it's uncomfortable, man, like, talk to the people that you love. Then in a conflict, like, if you're fighting, talk to them, hear each other out. And the intention is not to be like, when we're wrong, or this, and that. Own up for your actions, like for the part that you played and where you guys find yourselves. And I promise you're going to be so much better for it. Like, I feel so light, guys. I feel so light. It's like a heaviness has been lifted off of me. I've been morbid for the past couple of days, and I didn't realize how much of that was due to this conflict I had, Like, I thought, it's because things are not going well at work. But, like, actually, I've been morbid because I'm going to have another friendship breakup, and I hated that because What do you mean I'm having a friendship breakup? You know? But you are like, oh, talk to your people. It's not easy. I know that. But, oh, guys, conversations will save you a lot. But yeah, that's all I wanted to say today. Thank you so much for joining me. Do like and follow the podcast. I promise you, it really does help. It matters. And Sana, I've decided, Keuba, I really do want to make this podcast something serious and something worth, something. Because I think the conversation that I have here are important. There's like real life lessons to be shared here, and I do see potential. Like, I can't wait to finally start talking to guests. I just need to get my ducks in a row for that to happen. But it will. And I think conversations like this or on here will be very important. They will heal. They will facilitate, connections and utibana. Like, that's all I want to do, Like, I want to build connections. I want to rebuild communities and societies and families. Maybe not my own, because, like, I'm done with that niche. But, yeah. Guys, thank you so much for joining me. I'll see you on the next episode. Bye.